Hamilton just delivered one of the greatest recovery drives of the entire season. Flawless, focused, and fearless. He started from the pit lane, yet tore through the field like a man on a mission, overtaking with surgical precision and earning the Driver of the Day award from fans around the world. It was a masterclass in resilience, the kind of performance that reminds everyone why he's a 7-time world champion. And yet, Ferrari barely mentioned it. At the same time, Charles Leclerc held his third-place starting position to secure another podium finish. It was a solid, calculated drive, no doubt commendable, but what followed was a full-blown celebration. Team photos, social media highlights, praise from every corner of the Ferrari garage. The difference in treatment couldn't have been more obvious. One driver is quietly applauded for maintaining his place. The other performs a comeback for the ages and gets a short post with standard messaging. That's it. So the question becomes, why? Why does a heroic drive from Hamilton earn a whisper while Leclerc's podium gets a parade? What does this reveal about Ferrari's true priorities, about who they're really building their championship hopes around? What we've seen at the Belgian Grand Prix might look like just another race weekend on the surface, but beneath it lies something far more telling. A silent radio channel, a frustrated champion, a team caught off guard by their own driver's brilliance, and a response that says more than any official statement ever could. And it all started on Saturday. Qualifying at the Belgian Grand Prix was nothing short of a disaster for Lewis Hamilton. After struggling through practice, he was shockingly knocked out in Q1, a result almost unthinkable for a driver of his caliber. The reason? Ferrari had fitted an untested component onto the SF25, a last-minute decision that completely destroyed the car's balance. It was unpredictable through corners, unstable at the rear, and constantly fighting against him. At one point, the car even snapped mid-corner without warning. It wasn't just difficult to drive, it was dangerous. Meanwhile, Charles Leclerc had a much smoother session. He qualified third, right behind the McLarens, setting himself up for a strong race day. But for Hamilton, it was the worst possible scenario. He would have to start the race from the pit lane. And what made it worse was that the problems he faced weren't a surprise. According to multiple sources, Hamilton had already warned the team about the setup and its flaws during Friday's sessions. His feedback had been clear, but ignored. Ferrari chose to go ahead with the new setup anyway, and it backfired. But this is where things took a dramatic turn. After the disastrous qualifying, Ferrari worked through the night to completely rebuild Hamilton's car. They removed the faulty component, adjusted the ride height, softened the rear damping, and even altered the aerobalance. All changes Hamilton had originally pushed for. The car he drove on Sunday was built on the very setup he had been asking for all along. It wasn't perfect, but it was finally drivable. And with that, Hamilton was ready to prove a point. Sunday came, and with it, two completely different performances from Ferrari's drivers, both brilliant in their own way, but only one got the attention it truly deserved. Charles Leclerc did exactly what he needed to do. He held his nerve, defended well under pressure, and secured a solid third-place finish. It was a clean, composed drive. No mistakes, no unnecessary risks. A textbook podium, and one that rightfully earned him praise from the team. But while Leclerc was quietly banking points at the front, something much more dramatic was unfolding further back. Starting from the pit lane, Hamilton launched what can only be described as a clinical assault on the midfield. Car after car fell to him with the kind of precision only he can deliver. No wheel banging, no desperate lunges, just clean exits, sharp lines, and a calm, relentless charge forward. Every overtake felt calculated, like a chess move at high speed. It wasn't wild or chaotic. It was controlled, thoughtful, and absolutely ruthless. By the end of the race, he had overtaken more drivers than anyone else on the grid. Fans noticed. They voted him Driver of the Day by a landslide. The Formula One world was buzzing about the comeback. But inside the Ferrari garage, silence. The team radio stayed quiet during most of Hamilton's progress, not because they weren't impressed, but because they didn't expect it. They weren't leading him through the field, they were watching him do it on his own. And when the race ended, the difference in reaction between Leclerc's podium and Hamilton's masterpiece couldn't have been clearer. One was celebrated, the other was simply acknowledged. As the checkered flag waved, the difference in Ferrari's reaction to their two drivers became impossible to ignore. Within minutes, Their official channels were filled with celebrations for Leclerc, team photos, in-depth race analysis, behind-the-scenes content, all painting the picture of a successful podium. It was a full public relations rollout, polished and proud. The message was clear. Leclerc's third-place finish was the headline of Ferrari's weekend. But what about Hamilton? Despite pulling off one of the most impressive recovery drives we've seen all season, the response was barely a whisper. A short mention here, a routine post there, no fanfare, no detailed breakdown, no real recognition of what he had just done on track. For a driver who'd overtaken more cars than anyone else and was voted Driver of the Day by fans all over the world, it felt oddly cold. And that's what really stung. Because this wasn't just about results, it was about effort, execution, and impact. Hamilton delivered a performance that should have been impossible, and yet the team treated it like a footnote. So people started asking the obvious question, is this about performance or is it about preference? Around the world, fans showed their support in massive numbers. The Driver of the Day vote wasn't close. Hamilton's drive resonated globally, but inside Ferrari, it barely seemed to register. After the race, Hamilton faced the media with the calm professionalism he's known for. He didn't lash out, didn't point fingers, and didn't complain. In fact, he started by taking full responsibility for the Q1 exit, saying the blame was on him. But if you listened closely, what he said next told a very different story. He spoke about how the car finally came alive on Sunday, how it felt much more balanced and allowed him to push. We finally got the car into a workable window, he said. It sounded like praise, but it carried a quiet frustration. Because those setup changes, the ones that transformed the car, weren't new ideas. They were the exact suggestions Hamilton had been giving the team all weekend. The difference was, they only acted on them after Saturday's disaster. So while he stood there, thanking the team for the overnight work, the message underneath was clear. You didn't listen to me until it was too late. The performance data backed him up. With the car finally responding to his inputs, he cut through the field like a knife. It wasn't luck. It was the result of a setup he'd been asking for from the start. In just a few words, Hamilton exposed something deeper than a poor qualifying. He revealed a disconnect between his experience and the team's decision-making. He didn't need to say it directly. The silence on Saturday, the magic on Sunday, and the quiet tone in his voice did all the talking. Behind the scenes, Ferrari's technical department couldn't believe what they were seeing during the race. Hamilton's sudden pace, after just one night of setup changes, caught even the engineers off guard. It wasn't just a good drive, it was proof that his feedback had been right all along. And that's what makes their earlier decision so puzzling. Why did it take a complete qualifying disaster for Ferrari to finally trust the judgment of a 7-time world champion? The data from Sunday showed exactly what was possible when Hamilton's input was taken seriously. It left everyone asking, how many more weekends have been wasted by ignoring him? Now compare that with Leclerc. He's consistent, he's smooth, and most importantly for Ferrari, he's predictable. 5 podiums so far this season prove that he can bring in solid points. He doesn't ruffle feathers, and the team loves that. He fits their image. That's why he gets the media attention, the celebrations, the spotlight. But Hamilton, he's not just here to collect points, he's here to win championships. And even though he only has 1 podium this season compared to Leclerc's 5, his ceiling is clearly higher. When the car works, Hamilton doesn't just finish well. He redefines what's possible. That's what Ferrari's silence really shows. It's not just about this one race, it's about the bigger picture. The team is managing 2 very different kinds of drivers. One they celebrate, the other they hesitate to fully trust, even when he delivers something extraordinary. And in that silence, you can hear exactly where Ferrari's true priorities lie. This weekend didn't just highlight 2 great performances, it exposed something much deeper inside Ferrari. There's a clear split in how the team operates, almost like they're caught between 2 identities. On one hand, they brought in Lewis Hamilton for his experience, his leadership, and his ability to lift the team to a championship level. But on the other hand, their actions show they still place their full trust in Charles Leclerc's steady, safe approach. They want Hamilton's brilliance, but they act like they're only comfortable with Leclerc's consistency. During Hamilton's incredible comeback, the team radio was nearly silent, not because there was nothing to say, but because they didn't know how to respond. This wasn't a planned recovery. It wasn't part of a carefully managed strategy. It was Hamilton doing what he does best, and the team could only watch. The technicians weren't leading him through the race. They were spectators to something they hadn't expected. And that says everything about Ferrari's current mindset. Because when you have a driver like Hamilton, you need to be ready for someone who doesn't just follow instructions. He challenges decisions, pushes boundaries, and expects to be heard. But Ferrari's culture seems stuck in a place where comfort and control come first. And when someone like Hamilton demands accountability, it creates tension. Not because he's wrong, but because the team isn't ready to fully support that kind of leadership. This weekend didn't just show two different results on the track. It showed a team struggling to decide who they really want to be. As the dust settled after the race, Hamilton said something that cut deeper than any criticism could. This level of performance shouldn't require a recovery. On the surface, it sounded like a simple reflection. But if you really listen, it's the final blow in a weekend full of quiet truths. What he was really saying was clear. If you had just listened to me from the beginning, this could have been a podium. The car didn't suddenly become faster overnight. It just finally responded the way he'd been asking for all along. And that's what makes Ferrari's reaction so telling. The silence from the team wasn't just a mistake or an oversight. It was a reflection of where their loyalty lies and who they're really building this project around. Leclerc got the cheers, the cameras, and the headlines. Hamilton got a quiet nod, and nothing more. Not because his drive wasn't good enough, it was voted the best of the day by fans all over the world, but because Ferrari, deep down, still hasn't decided to fully back him. And that brings us to the real question that no one at Ferrari seems ready to answer. How can you win a championship if you don't trust the judgment of a 7-time world champion? Hamilton has shown what's possible when he's supported. He doesn't need perfection. He just needs a team willing to meet him halfway. Until that happens, moments like these won't be celebrated. There'll be warnings of what Ferrari is letting slip through their fingers. So now, the question lands in your hands. After everything we saw this weekend, from Hamilton's unreal recovery to Ferrari's loud silence, what should the team really focus on? Should they continue to back Leclerc's consistent, safe approach? Or is it time to fully commit to Hamilton's high-risk, high-reward brilliance that can turn disasters into something unforgettable? This isn't just a conversation about one race. It's about the kind of team Ferrari wants to become. Do they want to play it safe, or do they want to win at the very highest level? Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you agree with Ferrari's current direction? Or do you believe Hamilton deserves more than polite applause after a drive like that? And if you want more real, no-fluff analysis like this, where we dive deep into what's really going on behind the garage doors, make sure to subscribe. There's a lot more coming, and trust me, we're just getting started.